Hello everyone, how's it going? My name is Eduardo Ramos, and I'm going to be presenting my presentation on emerging technologies in legal psychology. This is for course 73266, Psychology and the Law. Um, Professor Hayden Henley, teacher of the class, June 7, 2025, presented by another again, Eduardo Ramos. So let's get right into it and let's just kind of give you a brief content overview before we go into here. So content, right? So what are we going to be going over? What does everything mean? Kind of give you a little bit of a rundown, right? We're going to go over how would AI change law? That's the kind of main topic point. Um, and kind of going over as to what its impact would be, good and bad, and we can kind of well, we'll get into that, but basically that will be our main focal point at the moment. So we're gonna go over our main topic point as well after that. Case studies. We're gonna go over a case study of an international survey on the use of emerging technologies, which is gonna give us a little bit of an idea of a look into its impact on the field. And we're gonna have a research on juvenile offenders risk assessment training, which is something we actually want to take a really close look at because it's of its actual impact on real case on people. It has a big impact in law, so we're gonna see how it goes. Um, what does it signify? That's the main point. What does it all mean? We don't know what it means. Doesn't really make sense, right? And then, of course, with the good, there's bad, right? There's nothing perfect in this world, and that's the issues and concerns, right? We kind of have to look at the good and bad. Does the good outweigh the bad? What does this mean in the overall scheme of things as well? We'll look at some case studies and the risks. Specifically, one of them is, so what are some major risks of AI and technologies in judicial decision making? And then ultimately, we'll wrap it up with our conclusion. So let's get right into it. So how would AI and technologies change law, right? And this is a very good question that many people need to really comprehend before we really go into it. What is its impact? Maybe you just know nothing about, AI or technologies or law at all, right? But the main thing is, what would it really change in law? We've never seen anything, like it before. It's not necessarily, used in the field or very popular in the field. Um, and this is why I like this video, titled "The Future of Law, AI-Powered Justice" by Robert Mahari. Basically, Robert Mahari gives a great introduction to the idea of AI and the incorporation of transformation of law with artificial intelligence and its benefits alongside with the risk of artificial intelligence. And a question I want you to think is, do you think AI should be used in judicial system? With just your mind outside, no information, do you think it should be used? Is it yes, no? That's something you have to think really, really deeply about after this whole presentation, and we'll kind of get an idea of whether or not it's beneficial or not. So we'll watch a little bit of this video. We're not going to go too much into it. Probably watch a little bit, just kind of highlighting the main points, and seeing what Robert Mahari thinks about the pros and cons about this whole thing. Um, and pretty much, is it worth it? Is it good? Yes or no? Pretty much. Let's just get right into it. Now, I'm gonna skip a little bit through this, um, and just let him talk a little bit in the beginning.
Digital tools, and those include finance, where we've enabled global markets and nearly instantaneous payments, farming, where we've reimagined how to produce food for billions of people, medicine, where we figured out breakthroughs that allow us to live longer than ever before, but not law. Law today is fundamentally the same as it was.
And that's good to know. We've seen it everywhere, literally everywhere. Majority of fields use some sort of AI. But we just don't see it in law, and that's something he's good, or notes pretty clearly. Now, I'm gonna skip a little bit forward because I don't really want to, get too much into this, but he also mentions that transforming with law would benefit in many different ways. And the three he mentions are he thinks it would preparing for litigation, forecasting legal risk, and empowering judicial reform would definitely be beneficial with the use of AI and technologies. But he also mentions that there's some risk. So,
Doing just that.
again, let me just skip a little bit more forward, just kind of
Fraud,
highlighting what he
bias.
says, right? And one of that is risk of legal AI. He says that it's gonna have risk with capture by big players, legal ossification, and undermining trust. And I want you to really comprehend undermining trust, right? More specifically, trust into the AI. What you think that the AI is really, trustworthy? Is it something you can use in the field? Well, that's something we'll get into a little bit, right? And again, I want you to really think about this question. Do you think AI should be used in the judicial system? Now, going into our main topic point, AI and judicial decision making. Artificial intelligence and tools would greatly improve judicial decision making and fairness all across the board. That's the main thing. Um, how exactly? Well, improve efficiency, reduce backlogs, enhance fairness in legal processes. AI tools can assist with legal research, possibly even predict sentence outcomes. We do have a case study that kind of goes a little bit into that, but we'll get to that in just a minute. So, does this justify AI judicial decision making as a valid tool? Good question, right? Now, let's look into a case. This specific case, by the International Survey of Use of Emerging Technologies, has two research questions that I want to highlight. One of them is, how often are they using those technologies? Um, and by they, it is the participants in here, right? The second research question is, how much has their use of technologies changed due to the COVID-19 pandemic? Well, the study got a sample size of individuals, 555 individuals from different countries, and tested how many of them use some form of technology in their work. Now, you could take a look at these graphs, but I want to go to the next slide and kind of highlight something, right? Continuing on. Results showed that 100% of the respondents use some form of technology in their daily work, with video conferencing being a leading contributing factor in their work environment, amounting as such as 94.35% or 151 sample contestants. Surprisingly, virtual reality usage amounted to an astounding 0% of respondents' usage. It was found out that 22.2% used some form of AI or virtual sim rig at some point in the work. And I mean, we're leaning more towards AI. As you know, we said virtual reality had almost an outstanding zero, right? The study then projects that this number can jump to 46% in the next 5 years, which is very interesting and kind of something I want you to grasp, right? Because this number and the projection, the increase, actually ties into the continuing article and case that I'm going to talk about later on in the next following slides, because it has such a great deep connection as to why they predict it's going to skyrocket so much, right? And I mean, we already use some form of technology. um, Maybe you use some form of AI in your life. ChatGPT is something, right? Video conferences amounted as 94.35% of usage, right? And that's a COVID. COVID had a really big spike of video conferences, right? And that still kind of just translates to today, right? And some form of usage was 100%, which is, undeniable. Your phone, everything, everything that you use that has supported technology. Well, we'll get into this next research, right? Factors influencing acceptance and trust of chatbots in juvenile offenders risk assessment training. Now, what does it have, or what impact does it have in the field? Objective: to evaluate the levels of acceptance and trust that criminology students have toward a chatbot used for training and juvenile risk assessment, and to identify the factors influencing these perceptions. Now, what's the trust? Did they enjoy it? Do you think they didn't? Was it a flop? Was it a success? Now, the trust actually came out pretty good. Out of 112 people who used the AI bot into training it, it was apparent that majority of the participants were either satisfied or highly contempt with the bot and had a great deal of trust in the AI bot, which is very astonishing, you know? For something or handling such an interesting or difficult thing that's never been used before, it actually performed really well. Going on and continuing on, right? It was accepted. It was widely accepted. And a great deal of individuals seem to place heavy trust in the AI bot from the experiment. And those who did exceptionally well, surprisingly, also had a great deal of trust in their own skills, which is something really good to kind of, you know, connect. An experience which can lead to the further acceptance of AI bot, right? So this was nonetheless a success. The incorporation of the chatbot played a pivotal role in the experiment, and those confident in themselves did even better in the overall scheme of things, further than showing the success of AI. Now, what does this signify? What does this signify overall? More research and implementation, right? More research into AI and its implementation to the community, specifically the judicial system, would be very beneficial to kind of have more research, more information that we might need, right? Now, information, 44% of judicial operators use Chat GPT, which is very, very nice to note, right? It has such a, well, that's a very big usage rate, right? But only 9% actually seem to want to implement it into more work and studies in regards to law. Now, why is that the case? Now, we'll get to that in the next few slides. The benefits. This can bring upon better research and studies shown prior, showcasing what would be the most advanced day and age of studies for the future and more specifically, artificial intelligence. Now, answering that question prior, right? What are some risks or of AI and technologies in judicial decision making? Now, let's get into a case study. In 2016, ProPublica conducted an in-depth analysis of Compass by examining data from over 7,000 individuals arrested in Broward County, Florida. Now, the study aimed to evaluate the accuracy and fairness of the algorithm, particularly concerning racial bias. Now, what did it yield? False positives. Black defendants who did not reoffend were nearly twice as likely to be incorrectly classified as high risk compared to white defendants, 45% versus 23%. False negatives. White defendants who did reoffend were more likely to be incorrectly classified as low risk compared to black defendants, 47.7% versus 28%. Continuing on, here's another case study. Seeing that ChatGPT AI is such a good tool, and as mentioned prior, it has been used, why didn't they want to use it? Well, in an $89 million damages case against Qatar National Bank, 18 of 45 cited cases were entirely fabricated, with many others containing bogus quotations. So the usage of AI and that number that we mentioned prior was just not reliable. Well, this caused a major issue in damages, which has people questioning the legitimacy of its reliability in the judicial system. So despite asking the AI bot multiple times whether the case was a legitimate piece of evidence logged, it turned out that the bot constantly doubled down on the fact of its source. Now, here's a little fun fact that I want to mention. Upon using it myself, I was also presented with fictitious cases. And this actually happened to me once in a class when trying to research some cases, right? You can ask ChatGPT for some cases, and it actually does have some false cases that it claims are real, such as the Rutherford versus Thames Legal Group in 2002, EWCA CIV 1129. It never existed. Now, going on next, what can we comprehend from those two studies? Well, AI such as ChatGPT showed lackluster performance when proving legitimate cases. That's just the case. Tends to be having a racial bias when judging and assessing certain situations, kind of understanding the state of mind, unreliable as a sole tool for information due to the risk of false information, questionable in moral cases when judging based off the state of mind of a person. So, how does this correlate? Well, you see, despite the downsides and the lackluster amount of information we have on AI and all that daunting information that we saw prior, it can all be fixed. It can all be implemented and used in moderation. And that leads us to this research study and the progression of AI. AI has roughly 50% chance of achieving AGI in the next 5 to 10 years. So, what does that mean? This would allow AI to achieve near or human level decision making and moral comprehension, something that we see previously in that risk area that was kind of controversial and really bad at. Gemini AI and Alpha Evolve are both tools that are openly available to the public and are undergoing this process of achieving AGI in the next 5 to 10 years. And as you notice, the next 5 to 10 years kind of marks the same projection date noted in our first case. It's going to progressively improve and adapt as it goes, kind of showing its performance and its better usage in the industry. It doesn't necessarily have to overtake the industry. It just has to be implemented and slowly done. This is a great opportunity to include some sort of AI in the workforce, and it currently is. Now, so what we make of all this? What's the conclusion to all this, right? Studies. Studies show significant AI is used in daily life and usage. That's a fact. It's used in some way or another. AI technologies. It indicates that it can have a solid impact on the judicial system in some form, one or another. It'll benefit. It'll always try in its best effort to at least give some sort of assistance. Importance: more opportunities, more resources, and further ways to advance the judicial field without replacing jobs that would have been assigned to an individual. Now, we still have to talk about the last two. Now, concerns. This still leaves a concern on its reliability and effectiveness as an AI tool that has proven to be unreliable at times. That is a fact as well. It caused issues amongst many people of different industries, and most recently, as noted prior, as a racially biased tool. Now, what's the solution to all this? How can we get AI in law and technologies, of course? Implementation. Simply limit implementation. Tools such as AI have been developing as seen in case studies, and the level of intelligence and rational decision making is nearing that of human level comprehension, proving its effectiveness. Once it reaches that 5 to 10 year stage that we mentioned prior in AGI, it will be near, or if not perfect, in helping in certain situations that we struggled prior with our concerns. So by simply limiting limitation and slowly adding to the whole thing, we'll benefit and we'll have great AI and technology usage in law and kind of have a revolutionary change into what we think law is, bringing back that question, should AI and technology really be added to law? Of course, it was an honor presenting this. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching and, listening my presentation. Um, these are all my references and works cited page. Feel free to look through them. Basically classifying everything we went over, any articles, any sort of sources that we used on this. It's all there. You could take a look, and I hope you enjoyed. It was an honor. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and you have a good one. Bye bye.